Well, happy Thursday afternoon, everybody. I'm Vandersteel, and this is Steel News, and you are in the war zone. I am just fresh back from North Carolina, where I was speaking to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Women's Republican Club for a luncheon yesterday. And what a phenomenal afternoon that was. I had a great time with the ladies. Really just wow, these women actually dig in and they get stuff done. It's sort of like they kind of graduated out of junior league and now they're deep into the deep end of the pool of politics, and they hold nothing back. They hold no punches back. They had some candidates running for Congress there as well. That I was just thrilled to get to meet. I did our Operation Burning Edge presentation where I just basically educated people on why it is so important that we get good people elected, because our borders are wide open and we are at war. And frankly, it's the federal government that is at war with we the people. And we've just got to fix that. And the only way to fix it is to remove and replace the criminal syndicate, the district of corruption, that dumpster fire. We got to deep six all of it. You know, like our declaration says, we need to alter or abolish. We have a lot of altering and frankly, some abolishing to do up there to get rid of those agencies. And I think Chevron deference opinion that's come out of the Supreme Court has made a massive dent in their sale. It's taken down their main spinnaker, that's for sure. We've got so many good things that are happening. And believe it or not, BRICS is actually not a bad thing either. I'm going to talk about that really quickly. But one of the things I want to talk about really quick before we get to our guest, Steve Stern, who is going to be enlightening all of us on the significance of some cool things happening in the election integrity front. And yes, we're still asking for your help. Is I want to clarify a Substack I put out last week because it got a little dust up. Boy, I got some hate mail after I put this out. This was my Substack, and it was based on what President Trump posted on his Truth Social account last week. And in case you didn't see it, he basically put out there that he wants to even potentially change the Constitution. So let's look at his Truth account here. He said, so with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude all allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Well, anyhow, that Truth Social post by President Trump had the internet buzzing. A lot of people were freaking out. My phone was blowing up. I said, let me think about this. Well, for any of you that know my position on some of the amendments, particularly the 13th and 14th, I find them wholly unconstitutional. And I spell it out here. I talk about the 13th Amendment. Why would President Trump want to terminate rules, regulations, articles, even those found in the Constitution? Well, I take you back in history to the 13th Amendment, where I talk about the fact, and this is all validated in other documents that are published in 1825, 1860, and others. I just listed a couple here that reveal the original 13th Amendment wasn't about abolishing slavery. It was actually ratified in 1819. But then it was changed again in 1865, and it was unlawfully changed. This is during the tumult of the Civil War. But the original 13th Amendment stated that if any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind whatever from any emperor, king, prince, or feigned power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. Well, here's the thing. Claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor. Well, titles of nobility would be like a king, a queen, or a squire, or an esquire. Well, esquires are your lawyers and your bankers. This is where I was going with this, and this is what I'm talking about. When they unlawfully changed the 13th Amendment to actually talk about the, freeing of the slaves, the emancipation of slavery. Not that I have anything against that. I'm pro no slavery. We should not have slaves. I'm against human trafficking. And this is what, by the way, our federal government is the biggest purveyor of human trafficking. I'm against all of that. But instead, what we did was we reduced the significance of not allowing any crown cabal people that would have allegiance elsewhere, unlike what we have in Congress right now. We have in Congress people with dual citizenships. We need to get away from that and make our allegiance focus singularly on America first. This is what President Trump has been beating the drum about now since he started running for office back in 2015. America first, America first. So when you introduce a title of nobility into Congress, like a lawyer or a banker, which is predominantly what we have running around the district of corruption. Then you have people with another agenda, and they're receiving financial remuneration from other organizations out there that support those associations with their said title. This is the problem we have. And so I know this article that I shared last week and wrote got quite a dust up out there. So I just wanted to kind of cover that because I think it's important. The other area that I want to cover is I want to talk about really quickly, just to remind everybody, when I was out in Charlotte yesterday having this conversation, the border is coming up again. But look at this X post by Insurrection Barbie. I love this account. Biden and Harris told Border Patrol agents to hide the number of terrorists crossing over the border. Honestly, imagine voting for this administration. How dumb do you have to be? Think about that. How dumb do you have to be? And of course, speaking of dumb, this is the ultimate admission that their policies aren't working when it comes to the financial crisis our country is facing. The Fed, that's right, Chairman Powell cut the federal interest rate yesterday by 50 basis points. That's right, 50. There was talk that it might be 25, 50. That is the ultimate admission that we are in a serious crisis right now financially in this country. And by the way, those horses have bolted from the barn. You are not going to stop that freight train of the demise of the dollar. It is done. The BRICS nations, however, are on the rise, and they're using sound money. That's right, gold-backed currency. And they have a basket of a variety of currencies. The ruble is 40% backed by gold, and the other 60% makes up of their other natural resources, including oil, and of course, the intellectual property. And did you know that there's J6ers that have now defected to Mother Russia because they don't want to be, thrown into the gulag here and dealt a dirty hand by a corrupt Department of Injustice? This is all stuff that is happening right now in real time. And people need to understand that we are being attacked by our own government. So the sooner we get on board with that train of thought, the more you're going to want to invest in fixing it. And the only way to fix it, honestly, is to do what we're going to talk about next with my good friend, Steve Stern. Steve, it is great to see you. I'm so glad you're here today because, again, this is all about the call of honor and the call of duty, the civic duty. You are the man that goes on every platform out there and you beat the same drum. Get engaged. So what have you got for us today?
Well, I found out something very important this morning, and I think we should bring it up. 38% of young people get their news from TikTok. Think about that. The Republicans don't even talk about TikTok. Biden hired 100 influencers to influence kids from 12 to 16 and even from lower age. Now, we've got to get the Republicans to wake up. So this is part of the thing that we're going to talk about today, because if they don't wake up, we're not going to win this election. Because if we're not even talking about TikTok, even though we don't like it, and we don't even get on it or have people on it, well, they're stealing the whole deal. So we're going to talk about election security and precinct strategy and how this started. You see the little picture behind me with President Trump and myself here. That particular picture on my right shoulder to you. That was taken a couple of years ago up in his office. And we talked about precinct strategy, about going to the rallies and asking people to get involved. Now, he didn't do that until a couple of months ago, and we'll talk about that also because it's very important. So he said he would. I had Liz Harrington. I had 12 of his secretaries, my wife, my grandson. We were all there. We all heard him say that, but he didn't do it. So that hurt us a little bit. Then he spoke to me about what I thought about the 2024 election. Now, that was a couple of years ago. And I said, well, look, nothing really has changed back then. It's pretty much the same as when you ran in 2020 and why you lost the election, because of how they stole the election. So he said, I know you do a precinct strategy Zoom meeting. Why don't you tie that into election integrity? Well, I said, look, I didn't really know that much about all the good people in the election integrity. So right away, for 3 weeks, I did my homework. I called you and many, many other people around the country. Who were the top people in election integrity? Mel K, whoever I knew that knew who the right people were. And we started getting a few of those people on. And the first Zoom meeting we had was 50, and it kind of building up to 500, 600, 700, 800. It varied. And we sent out 25,000 emails with the links to all these things and also the copies. And then about 4 months ago, I was on Steve Bannon, and you notice I'm wearing my Stand With Bannon shirt. So we'll just put a little plug in there. So if you go to standwithbannon.com, you can get your own shirt, because he's one of the guys who talk about, who's not talking about all this stuff right now because he's in jail, and they've silenced a lot of our people. So that's a very important thing that, we need to make sure that we remember him, because he's going to be getting out, unfortunately, a few days before the election. And he tried to get out earlier, but they wouldn't let him do it. He's had attorneys try to do that, but he is well. Everybody should know that. On our Zoom meetings, we have his daughter who talks about this. So now let's talk about me being on Bannon on that day. And it was about 4 months ago. We had an election security meeting that morning, and 1,000 people signed up. I said to myself, wow. And why did that change? Because I put my email on the bottom. Many times you guys know that I always bring up my sign with the flag shirt and my stern10@gmail.com. But what I learned as an old guy, I usually have my camera ready to take it who's ever on TV, but most people don't. So they did not get my email all the time because we were getting 50 people, 60 people. But when I got 1,000 people sign up, I knew right away that was because my email was on there. And Steve had given me more time than he normally does. So that helped also. So we usually get 3, 4, 5 minutes on a show because he's got so many people on. But we got about 8 or 10 minutes. And that led me to talk about it. And so we got 1,000 people signed up. It took it 4 hours to get the links to everybody. And then he said something so important that's changed this whole thing. He said, Steve, I'm going to put this on Get It Live, and I'm going to put this on Rumble Live. Well, he got 28,000 people on that thing. And, you know, as an older guy, 83 years old, and this is 70 years, you got to learn something every day. So what I learned was, hey, we got to get this live all over. So what I did was I called up a lot of my friends, and you helped me. We got a lot of the podcasters around the country. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a Zoom meeting with some terrific people on election integrity, and I'll tell you about some of them. You were on there. We had some other people. And we had 155,000 people on it that we knew about because a lot of the people that had it on there didn't have a record of how many people actually watched. So we're going to have another Zoom meeting here a week from Wednesday, the 25th.
Okay.
Like yesterday, because we lose time here. Every day goes by so fast for me. So that's the 25th. It's going to be 1:50 Eastern time, 1:50 Eastern time. And if you want to watch it, you want to see it live on Zoom, you can email me and I'll send you the link. Or you can go to Stern American. That's Stern American Rumble. And we put it live. And you're going to be able to see that. And we're also, and if you want to see any of the old ones, we're going to be able to do that too by going to Stern American Rumble. And that's going to be so important. So who's going to be on this time? Why is it so important? Well, this week is Only Citizens Vote Week. So that's one of the most important things because you've been on the border. You know what's going on. 14 million people we know about, maybe 20 million people we don't know about. Who knows how many people are
A lot more than that, Steve. I was talking to my group yesterday. The Border Protection Agency actually admitted that there's 40 to 50 million illegals in our country since 2021. That's from their own stats.
There you go. So now we got a good figure. It went from 20 to 40. And where are they?
Guess what? Social Security Administration has actually registered 30 million new Social Security accounts, and they're all young people. They're not old.
So it's good because we want to get this out. So Kerry Talasco, she was on a Zoom where I saw her and we got her on coming on. And she did for this week, onlycitizenvote.com. If you go to onlycitizenvote.com, you can see how to get these illegals off the voter roll. She lists everything and she'll talk about it more next week. But this week is that. Cleta Mitchell went up to Congress to talk to the congressman to tell them about it. And we need them to get the illegal citizens off because there's no way that President Trump is going to win this election if the illegals vote. Then we're going to have Deb Monks on, who you probably know, and she's going to talk about how to use public records to reconcile results because a lot of people don't know that we can do this. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people aren't listening to us when we get on TV and let them know what's going on. All they do is complain a lot and they're lazy. So we'll have a lady, I don't know if you know her, not Ann Vandersteel. She's going to be on talking about the border and tell us what else you're going to be talking about when you speak next week. So
yeah, I'm going to talk about the border. I'm going to talk about the fact that I've been talking with an IRS high up. Not that and they know how I feel about the IRS. They know that I know they're frauds, but whatever. The IRS has been issuing millions of individual taxpayer identification numbers, I-10s they're called, so that these illegal alien invaders can, quotes, legally, it's not lawful what they're doing. It's totally not lawful, but they can legally vote because, by the statutes and rules and all that, which is their legal fiction crap that we shouldn't even be paying attention to. We should only focus on the lawful aspect of what makes you a real citizen here to vote. So they've gotten ITINs by the millions and social security numbers by the millions. So they, we can vote harder all day long. But the fact of the matter is, Steve, as I told you on the last election integrity call you did with hundreds of thousands of people watching then, that we just have to be very diligent in our election and fraud capture, all the ways they defrauded these elections down, whether it's state statutes, illegals voting, voter rolls, whatever, because Marley and Harry Hornick have got the cat's meow with their lawsuit on civil rights. Because every time somebody's vote gets canceled because an illegal person was voting, that means your civil rights were violated. And that's how you go to the Supreme Court. And now you can bring in all that election fraud evidence from all over the country. And all the great people that have been out there. There's hundreds and thousands of people doing this work, and they've got it all. As they say, patriots have it all.
So we want you to also get an app called votifynow.org. And that is our good friend, Johnny Vieira. He's going to be talking about it and why this app is important, because it's been going on 2 years now. He's got millions of people on it. When you go to the polls and you see something wrong, you put it right in there and it goes to your people, and it goes to the police, it goes to the sheriffs, it goes to everybody, and they can see right away what's happening. So he'll tell us a little about that. I don't want to give away his story, but very important to get that app now before he even comes on. Then we're going to have Todd Callender, who has Cloud Hub, which is similar to Facebook, and that's our conservative way that we want to do this, and it's very important. We're going to have Greg Stenstrom on, who's been on mostly time because he's got a big lawsuit also in Pennsylvania, and that's going to be very important. We're going to have Chris Gleason on, vote by mail, and he's going to talk about what's happening in St. Petersburg, about all the ballots that came out that nobody ordered, and there's about, I think it was 239,000 of them, and the same thing happened in Miami, 142,000 of them that nobody asked for, but they sent them out anyway. And why do you think that's happening? Well, we know why it's happening, because basically they just want people to vote that, they know they're being overwhelmed by the amount of Republicans in Florida. We have 1 million plus over the Democrats in Florida, so we're in good shape. But if they cheat, they can easily catch up, because we're going to tell you how bad the primaries were. Only 17% of the people came out. In some states, 10% of the people came out. That's horrendous. Then we're going to have Tim Yater on, who's going to be talking about the border and bringing the power back to the people. Dr. Frank talking about cleaning the voter rolls. Jeff Bongioni talking about non-citizens voting. We're going to have Christine Bowserman, who's going to be talking about how to win the election. Mike Davis, article3project.org. And our special guest, John Frederick, who's taking a little time off to come on. And I guess he's getting away from his gambling and his son's baseball to come on and speak to us. So he's got a few things to talk about, because we have a lot of people talking about voting early, voting on election day, voting, but I say let's just vote. That's one of the most important things to do. So why did we come on? The most important thing that we came on today for is protectthevote.com. We need poll watchers and poll workers in Wisconsin. We're short 2,500. Michigan, the same thing. Pennsylvania, Georgia. Protectthevote.com. We need to get people out there. Now, I got to admit, there is a lot more people working. In the last election, there was 100,000. Now there's 175,000. But the most important thing is in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, where we don't have enough. We got a lot in Florida. We got a lot in Texas. We got a lot of states, but we're missing them there. The RNC has asked me to help them. I'm glad to step up. And they also asked me to help them on TrumpForce47.com. That's another thing that's very important. There's 28,000 people that have registered on Trump Force 47.
I did. I registered.
It's important because of the precinct strategy. There's 400,000 slots in precinct strategy, and there's only 200,000 people involved. 3 years ago, when I started on Steve Bannon, and that's how I started my career, because I was never on TV before, and I saw Dan Schultz on there, and I asked him about precinct strategy, and I told him what we were doing in Broward County, and he says, we got to get you on. So I got on, and a funny thing happened, because the first time you've ever been on TV, whenever it was, maybe 10 years ago, the first time you're a little nervous. Now you're a seasoned veteran, and you know what to say. But I never was on before, and Cameron texted me, said, you'll be on at 10:15. So they Skyped me at 10:15, and I'm waiting. It's 10:30, 10:45. They text me, oh, you're going to be on 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock comes, they text you, you're going to be on 11:15, then 11:30. 11:45. So then I already lost 5 pounds of sweat because, you know, I was sitting there listening to everybody and figured, hey, it's great listening to everybody, but I never got on. 11:46, bam, they put me on, and I'm going like this because I never expected to even get on. So anyway, I did a good job, and because I had done speaking before, and it's funny because I had gotten up 3 o'clock in the morning and I was writing little notes, so I remembered what to say. But those notes went out the air because I didn't even think I was going to get on. So I had to reinvent the wheel. I did it, and they sent me a clip of it. I listened to it because when you get on, you don't really remember what you say till you listen to it. I mean, you know some of the facts, but you want to listen to how you work. So about 2 weeks later, they asked me to come back on, and I did. And then about a month later, Steve texted me and said, "Could you find me success stories like yourself?" Well, how am I going to find success stories around the country? I had to go to Dan Schultz. He gave me his list. But when I started speaking to those people, they weren't really success stories. So I had to get person after person. I spent 3 months, probably 1,000 people to start to get the success story. The first success story was New Mexico. And I put it on, and Bannon texted me and said, "Why in the hell are you putting on New Mexico? It's a blue state. I want the red states on." I said, "Well, you told me to get success stories, and I feel that this was on." So anyway, he listened. The guy was fantastic. He texted me, said, "You're right. The guy was good." The next time I got on Delaware, again, he texted, "Hey, why aren't you getting the red state?" I said, "Because Delaware is an important place. Biden is there. We want to get, we want to turn that red." And he said, "Okay, we got it." So anyway, we went through all the red states. We had about 30 states on before he decided he didn't want to put it on anymore. But it was very interesting because we got a lot of people, and I got to know a lot of people. And then a girl called me from California, Tina Celine. She saw me on Bannon, and she said, "Can you help me turn California red?" I said, "Look, I'm good, but I'm not that good." I said, so we got together and we said, let's try to see what we can do. So we got 100 people together, and we started talking to them, and we got those 100 to get us 500. We now have 10,000 people in California working. We interviewed a lot of the people who are running for office, and we learned a lot, and it was very important. So we talk a lot about the people who are, helping us around the country, and I'll go over them. But I want to give you a little thing that about 2 months ago I got pissed off because nobody was answering the phone to the RNC, the Trump campaign, et cetera, et cetera. And I got a hold of Boris Epstein, and I said, "Boris, what the heck's going on?" I said, "I need to speak to somebody that's going to do something." So he gave me Christina Bobb. Christina Bobb started to do some stuff, and then all of a sudden she got indicted in Arizona, as you know, and she got blocked. So she gave me Bill McGinley, who for 2 months said he was going to do something, and finally 2 months later he did it. And we had a meeting on Zoom with Moms for America.
Yep.
We had CPAC. We had a bunch of people on there along with 4 Trump campaign people, and they said, "We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and do this and do that." But it's the same old thing. RNC and the Trump campaign communicate. There's no communication, and that's one of the reasons we're having some problems.
So how do we, you know what, Steve, I just want to interrupt you because you're actually on a terror right now. Why do we have such a problem between the Trump campaign and the RNC? He has Laura Trump there right now. What is the disconnect? I mean, you would think when you would put like probably arguably your favorite daughter-in-law into that position that you'd have a little bit more pull, that she'd be able to kind of wrangle. I'm like, what's going on over there? Are they running over her? Like how is this not
really? She's there for one thing, to get money. And that's basically her main
She's
thing.
doing a great job, no doubt.
Yeah, there's no question. But that's her main thing. So Watley is in charge now. He's the chairman of the Republican Party, but he's a rhino. He's from North Carolina. Everybody in North Carolina doesn't like him. So there got to be something wrong. So he communicates with nobody. He goes around. I had a guy in Nevada. He was in Nevada talking to everybody, and he said, "I'd speak to you after the meeting." And he just bombed out and just went right out. Many of his friends said he doesn't even answer their calls. So that's exactly the same thing that happened with Ron McDaniels. I called Ron McDaniels 100 times, her office, nobody ever called back. Now, we are, and I'm the vice chair of Broward County Republican Party, and I only got there because our chairman, Chris Marino, asked me to help him because I certainly didn't need that to add to my thing. And I'm working. We're doing a big event here on Saturday. And of course, when I do something, I always make sure it's big. So I got involved at Gulfstream Racetrack. They asked me to come in. We had a team of 20 people, and all of a sudden now we got 3 people, and they're in my office now doing the swag bags. And
nice.
We had a lot of people donate stuff. Very nice. The thing is that we got the most people we've ever had at an event. We have over 310. We usually get 250. We have Senator Scott speaking, Roger Stone, a bunch of other speakers. So it's going to be a
Nice.
phenomenal event. We had to turn people down because we just don't have enough room. But it's going to be a sensational event. So we have doing a lot of stuff, but the RNC, just to give you a perfect example, how what you just said, our chairman of the RNC of Florida was speaking. Our chairman at the convention said he would speak at our event. Okay. He is not speaking at our event. He didn't even cancel. He didn't even tell Chris Marino that he wasn't going to do it. He never answered him. Now, can you imagine that? He's the chairman of Florida. My chairman asked him to speak at our event and doesn't even show up and doesn't even tell you he's not going to come on, doesn't even cancel. So it shows you the communication. And, you know, I'm a communication.
No, you know what it shows me, Stephen? It shows me the disdain they have for America First people. That's what it shows me. It's their way or the highway. I'm sorry. I know they sound really down, but that's just terrible. I think it's great they're asking you to help. It shows me that they don't have the ability to actually have people that can motivate people to show up and do anything. So they look to the one guy who can, and that's you. And you do. You are a one-man army that is just bringing everybody together in the big tent. You are creating the MAGA right now by grabbing everybody from all over the place. So kudos to you. Shame on the RNC.
What if we even did better? And this may not help in this election, but it's going to help forever.
Yeah.
We got all the podcasters with your help and other people's help, Melissa Red Pill. And we had going to have next week 75 podcasters doing this live. This is going now live to Canada, to Europe, to Italy, to wherever we can put it. And, you know, just to show people, I was a poll watcher. So I believe in what I do. I don't know how I do everything, but I do it. And one of the most important things is Captain Seth Seshel, a very good friend of mine, he gave us the 30 counties that are going to make a difference in this election. So take your camera out, take a picture of this, because this is the election right here. Forget about California, forget about Florida, forget about everybody. There's the 8 states and the counties that are going to make a difference. Seth Kessel spent zillions of hours doing this, and it hasn't changed. And we're talking to people in Philadelphia, and, you know, one of the heads in Pennsylvania said to me that how Philadelphia goes, the election goes. There you go. So Philadelphia, if they vote 102%, which they did last time, which means, of course, you know,
we had counties vote 137% here in Florida. Don't kid yourself.
Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is the crux of this election. If they bought up the place so you can't even look in, if they move the poll watchers and poll workers out of the way, and if they bring in all these ballots at the last minute, we don't win the election. It's bad enough that we got illegals. It's bad enough we got illegal ballots. And then you heard in Detroit where the Detroit allowed 1,500 poll watchers and poll workers Democrats, and they allowed 50 for the Republicans. So there's a perfect example. You know what they're going to do. So all this stuff, you know, I can go on for an hour, but I lose my voice after 30 minutes. So give me a couple of questions. We'll shoot out and we'll call it a day.
Okay. All right. So number one, just to reiterate, and I have some people in the chat, Sassy Gal, who I've been in contact with via email. Janine, she's sent me some incredible information, and I'm chomping at the bit to go over it. But she said she couldn't join us today. She's tied up otherwise. But she's got to be more prepared, she said, and she will be, because we're going to review it ourselves. But it's, you know, we have a lot of, as the Florida goes, Steve, we are not the gold standard that everybody thinks we are. We have a lot of problems in Florida. And so to your point, the precinct strategy stuff, you know, I want to reiterate, number one, where do people go to sign up to be a precinct strategy captain or a volunteer?
Become part of the precinct strategies. I would go and buy Dan's book for $10 on Amazon. Just take a picture of it, or go to the precinctstrategy.com, www.precinctstrategy.com. That'll tell you where to go to get everything. Very simple. Precinct Strategy got all the information. So people ask me, what do I do as a committee man and a committee woman? Well, you attend meetings, you vote, you get candidates elected, you sign up voters, you canvass neighborhoods, you poll watch, you poll work, you make phone calls, anything you want to do. Now, give me an hour a week. You don't even have to be a precinct committee man. You can join a club. We have 14 clubs. You can belong to the club, and it's just as easy. Now, we have candidates that are out there, and the same people are doing the same thing, no matter if it's Fort Lauderdale or it's West Palm Beach or it's Miami. It's the same people that do this all the time. Not a lot of new people are coming in. And what happens, we don't have a lot of young people. I will say Fort Lauderdale has brought in 80 new young Republicans. And that's a big deal because the YRs are the important thing. Look, I'm 83. We need the 20, 30 people getting in. And that's what we're going after. And Charlie Kirk is working on that. But again, communication. Charlie doesn't communicate with anybody. He communicates with his people. And that's another thing. We talked to Tyler Boyer.
Well, I will give you some good news there. I was working with Christine Reagan over at Act for America. She's like Brigitte's number 2, I think. She's pretty high up in Brigitte's Act for America organization. And they did all the training for, voter registration and this type stuff for Charlie Kirk's organization. And they are all about helping get that messaging out, because I get, there's only so much people can do. And maybe things fall through the cracks because you're trying to do a lot. And so this is when other organizations that aren't funding yours or getting money from your organizations, but they're picking up the slack, because this is where we got to lock arms, right? We have to lock arms. It's not about exchanging dollars and cents here. It's about, we have got to get President Trump over the finish line in hopes that we can, create a softer landing into this financial cataclysm that's about to happen, so that we can, get people transitioning into greatness, which would be sound money, which would be elimination of taxes. It will be elimination of the agencies. This is what the precinct strategy is going to help us get to. But if you want all of those great things, you got to step in and do your civic duty over here. So I concur. Precinctstrategy.com is critical to getting people engaged in the process. Again, we need evidence also. If you have voter integrity, voter election integrity evidence of fraud, please. We need all that stuff, because Marley and Harry got those lawsuits, 9 lawsuits going to the Supreme Court, hopefully right before the election, to be adjudicated on civil rights. And that's when they'll see all the evidence of all the fraud. So we have everything we need. We need you to step in and do your job.
I want to talk about one important thing I forgot about. Dr. Robert Epstein. I don't know if you know Dr. Robert Epstein, but I went out to San Diego to have lunch with him. I got him on many programs. I just got on a big program. He spent an hour. And what he says is so important that you guys got to know. He said, maybe we have voter fraud, but we got a way that he's stopping, that Google has swayed 2 to 5 million votes on the last election. Think about that. 2 to 5 million votes. We only lost by 12,000 in one state, 10,000 in another, 2 to 5 million votes. So now we got Alexa. You heard that, if you have Alexa and you ask them, what do you think about Trump? What do you think about Biden? What do you think about Harris? You'll get all the information for them, but very little information about them. So Dr. Robert Epstein's got 11,000 people working for him, and he's frustrated because, people don't understand this. They think that it's only the stealing of the vote. It's also the swaying of the vote. So we've got so many things working against us that we just hope that President Trump can pull it out. So I always say and end up with action, 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 because I can hear my voice and I'm losing it. And I want to thank you so much for having me on. And anybody, again, that wants to get to me, I know you got my email on the bottom. I answer every email. I try to get everybody involved. We are getting people involved, but not enough.
Yeah. Well, Steve Stern, thank you so much. Hero maneuvers by you always. I know you've got 3 more shows you have to do today. So let's protect your voice, give you 30 minutes downtime. Get some lemon and honey tea in there. Coat your throat. And there you got water. I see you're drinking Fiji water. Good choice, Steve Stern, Mr. Action. But get some lemon honey, or at least get some honey on your throat. That always helps me. God bless you. I will look forward to seeing you. It's next week on our call, and I look forward to the lineup.
We're going to have 200,000 people on it.
200,000. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be huge. So, folks, remember, you can go. Best place to get is to go to sternamerican.com. I think I had that up on the screen. I want to just get that up one more time. Where do they?
I don't normally talk about it because everybody sees the flag shirt, but I gave most of the business to my son. So go to www.theflagshirt.com. We got a lot of new stuff in there. We've had tremendous success because everybody goes to the rallies, wears their flag shirt, and enjoy and use Steve 10 for your discount. And you have a nice week, and we'll see you next weekend at these.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. We'll talk to you later.
You got it.
All right. Okay, I'm going to leave his website up for a little bit just to give Steve some love, because he really does. I mean, this is a guy who's been in business for a long time. He's got a beautiful company, flagshirt.com, and he, has done a lot for so many people, including Steve Bannon, right? Steve Bannon, he helped put a campaign together, for shirts for Steve to help raise money for his legal defense, as he still sits up in Danbury, Connecticut, languishing in a gulag because, there's two-tier justice system in this country. Of course, when he blows off a subpoena and doesn't show up, it's okay for, I guess, Hunter and Mayorkas and Blinken and anybody else in this regime to blow off congressional subpoenas. But Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Rules for thee and not for me. That's how these guys roll. So flagshirt.com, they have beautiful stuff. And again, you just looked at a man in his 80s who was running circles around most people in their 20s in this country. So if you are looking for some patriotic gear, definitely head on over to the flagshirt.com. All right. I'm going to take a really super quick break here, and I'm going to bring us back around to a second half of the show. I want to just cover a little bit of news with you and round it out. We've got some pretty cool stuff that's going to be launching in the next couple of days. And I am going to be focusing a lot on, obviously, the elections, tying in what's happening globally with this obvious Operation Burning Edge focus on the illegal weaponized human migration that is just destroying sovereign nations all over the place. And if you're paying attention to the news, you're seeing, Germany and France that are like, wow, we're going to have to shut our borders. Excuse me, not Germany. Germany and the Netherlands are talking about closing their borders. They're done. They're cooked. They don't have any more. Germany's in a really bad position right now. They're kind of sliding backwards into sort of a deindustrialization process right now, primarily because, I don't know, the United States government blew up the Nord Stream pipelines, which cut natural gas to Germany and liquid, propane. And so now they have problems with their, BASF plant, which is run on the gas that was coming out of the ground or in the ocean. And that is problematic for things like fertilizer. And you need the BASF industries to produce the fertilizer, which is what we use around the world. So there's only a few places around the world that actually manufacture nitrogenous fertilizer. And when you start to mess with BASF, which has been around for a long time, you are really messing with the food supply chain. So stick with us. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to give us a little bit of a salute to Steve.
What the fuck did you do to stop? What the fuck did you do to stop it? Here's what he did to stop it. Nothing. You know why they did nothing? Because it's too fucking hard to do it. They're gutless. The reason this country in the West is in the shape it's in is because the conservatives who talked a good game about doing better didn't have the balls to sit there and fight and say no. This is why you have moms going to school boards to throw this pornography out. The reason we're winning in the United States, we're not depending upon a conservative elite who are gutless and feckless. We're depending upon mothers and fathers and school boards. We're depending upon working class people who are taking their extra time to go to precinct strategy because they said, hey, we're prepared to stand and fight and not let our country be taken. And that's what's important. Everything else is just conversation. You have to have the political will and the muscle to sit there and say, they can call me a racist, they can call me a nativist, they can call me a xenophobe, a sexist, a homophobe, all of it. When they get to that name calling, that means they've lost the argument and we're winning. You've got to draw that pus, you've got to lance the boil and draw that pus out of the system. And the conservatives aren't prepared to do that. They'll curl up in the fetal position because they're not going to be acceptable with the clubs. You have to get over, you have to understand we're unclubbable. And we're unclubbable and we're fucking proud of it, okay? And we're going to save our country. And eventually, leaders will step up in England and come to the forefront and save the United Kingdom.
Hi, I'm Ann Vandersteel. I want to talk to you a little bit about your health. Part of my daily routine is to get up in the morning and get a little exercise on. If I have time for a mile or 7, doesn't matter. I get out the door every single day. It's important to get my body moving and get that oxygen flowing through my brains. What is also equally important is what I put in my body after I exercise. I rely on vandersteelhealth.com, where I have a delicious selection of superfoods and other supplements. But first and foremost for me are my superfoods. I have a delicious shake every single day. It is organic, all made in the United States of America, non-GMO, never processed before, dehydrated superfoods. And when they reconstitute with water, milk, or whatever juice you like, it makes a delicious, healthy, plant-based protein supplement. And I say supplement because, frankly, I use this as a meal replacement. This is what's helped me lose the last 20 pounds of COVID. I'm back down to my fighting college weight, fitting in my college clothes, and feeling better than ever. So go to vandersteelhealth.com and get your delicious superfoods. Get on the transformation program with us. It's a 30-day kickoff, and it will get your day starting out great. And watch the weight just fall off. Watch the energy increase, the brain fog lift, and of course the ancillary benefits in your hair, skin, and nails. All these things, you are what you eat. Remember that. Go to vandersteelhealth.com.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you. War.
F you, boy, the federal government never ceases to, well, I guess, fail. They never cease to fail in saying F you to us on every single day. Take a look at this. I was looking through X while we were on break just now, and I can't believe what I'm looking at right now. This is a mind blower. But right here, Wall Street Apes, one of the accounts I love following. I don't care if this has been shared. Listen to every word. The Attorney General Merrick Garland just vetoed charging Ryan Routh with attempted assassination. So I want you to think about what the thought process of Merrick Garland must be. He must somehow think that this man was in that bush on that golf course for some other reason, even though this man, Ryan Routh, has actually written and published a book where he calls for the assassination of Donald Trump. This man then went and camped out in a bush on Donald Trump's golf course for more than 12 hours with body armor and a fully loaded SKS. Like, sure, the rifle you could explain away, but the body armor? You only have body armor if you expect for rounds to be fired at you. And I don't know any animals he'd be hunting with opposable thumbs. So I can only surmise that he was worried about people shooting at him. There he was, camped out in a bush on Donald Trump's golf course, waiting on the 6th hole, while Donald Trump was on the 5th hole, minutes away from being within range of him. And thankfully, the Secret Service was able to notice the barrel of his rifle sticking out of that bush. And then they opened fire. He fled, and he was eventually apprehended. By the way, he was apprehended in Martin County. Holy cow. That's not far from where I am. But not to charge him with attempted assassination. That means that Merrick Garland had found some reason to think that Ryan Routh was there for some other reason, wearing body armor and carrying a fully loaded rifle. I'm just curious, what other reason could that be? What other reason could a man who's written and published a book calling for Donald Trump's assassination, bearing body armor with a fully loaded rifle, hiding in a bush on Trump's golf course in a spot where Trump was going to be within a couple of minutes? What other reason could he have to be there? Like, somebody give me something. I'd love to hear Merrick Garland tell us why he thought Ryan Routh was there, because he did not charge him with attempted assassination. That means Merrick Garland thinks there's another good reason. This guy goes completely off on this. I think it's worth just taking a listen to this because, frankly, it's disgusting.
In a bush on Donald Trump's golf course for more than 12 hours with body armor and a fully loaded SKS. Like, sure, the rifle you could explain away, but the body armor? You only have body armor if you expect for rounds to be fired at you. And I don't know any animals he'd be hunting with opposable thumbs, so I can only surmise that he was worried about people shooting at him. So there he was, camped out in a bush on Donald Trump's golf course, waiting on the 6th hole, while Donald Trump was on the 5th hole, minutes away from being within range of him. And thankfully, the Secret Service was able to notice the barrel of his rifle sticking out of that bush. And then they opened fire, he fled, and he was eventually apprehended. But to not charge him with attempted assassination. That means that Merrick Garland has found some reason to think that Ryan Ruth was there for some other reason, wearing body armor and carrying a fully loaded rifle. I'm just curious.
I mean, it's nuts, isn't it? It's completely nuts. And this is the FU from the federal government. Now, remind you, the federal government, that is an agency, right? Merrick Garland, hello. You know, this is the Department of Injustice. This guy is an unelected bureaucrat who, by the way, does not have an oath of office on file. I have covered that story so many times since April of 2022. Not one member of Biden's cabinet, including Kamala Harris, has an oath of office on file. Yes, they all put their hand on the Bible and their right hand and swore to uphold and defend the Constitution. That's 5 U.S.C. 3331. There's a second part. It's 5 U.S.C. 3332. They must, on a piece of paper, written, signed, notarized, or an affidavit swearing and attesting to that they mean all this stuff. It has to be filed. They're not on file, or if they are, they're defective, they're missing information. It's a shit show, okay? These people do not have oaths of office. They do not have an allegiance to our country, let alone to wanting to defend and protect the president, the one man that brings hundreds of thousands of people out regularly all over the country to see him speak, okay? And speaking of a recent Trump rally, I want to draw your attention to something else that I came across. In fact, some of you probably already saw it. I posted it on X. Let me just go through my timeline here and see if I can go back and find it. It was earlier this morning. Let's see. I was retweeting a lot of Jane Ruby. I was on with Tom Renz earlier. Let's get back to, it was about what happened. Here we go. How many of you saw what happened in Arizona, where there was a group of people that were sitting behind President Trump when he was speaking in a small auditorium? A couple thousand people were there. He had bleachers on both sides of him. Well, the bleachers behind his right shoulder, apparently, when the people were getting ready to leave, they all got hit with something in their eyes, and their eyes were burning. And they all ended up going to the hospital. Well, I have a source that knows a lot about this stuff, sent me this. Targeting your political enemies is real. Obviously, we know they've been targeting all of us, those that they consider the political enemies. But to the people who suffered, could it be this weapon? And this is a U.S. military-developed rifle that can cause temporary blindness. So let's take a look at this really quickly, because I think it's important to basically understand: did our own government use a weapon like this and create a problem for the people who attended Trump rallies? You know. Let's see, my internet's being weird. For good or ill, the U.S. military has proven highly proficient at developing futuristic weapons to destroy enemy targets or otherwise render them combat ineffective. The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, for example, can drop 40,000 pounds of ordnance on a target without radar even seeing it's there. Laser and directed energy weapons are approaching the point where it may no longer be within the realm of science fiction. So they're using this Lockheed Martin HELSI project in aiding the elimination of airborne threats with laser technology. But could that be what they hit these people in the auditorium with? You know, I mean, people get talk about hitting with things all the time. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Anyway, guys, it's about an hour here almost. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to be doing some more recording today. I'll be back again tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in as always. And do take advantage of what Steve Stern's talking about. We have everything to gain and everything to lose, right? So if we don't get in the game, if we don't do what we can locally, and I mean locally in our own communities, and be a part of the precinct strategy project, go be a poll watcher at your own local precinct. If you're not out collecting election fraud integrity evidence that can be submitted into this massive lawsuit, there's been 9 lawsuits. In fact, let me just show you this really quickly because I think this is important. I'm going to go to uniteforfreedom.com. These guys have done an amazing job of aggregating not only all the election integrity fraud data, but more importantly, they have now delivered 9 lawsuits across 9 states. 9 lawsuits, and these lawsuits are all formulaic. They're all using the same formula. And in some of the states they've won, some of the states they've lost. They need help. They need financial support because they have 10,000 volunteers and a couple of attorneys. And the attorneys are the only ones getting paid, and at a cutthroat rate, I might add. But what I'm trying to ask you for is to pay attention to this, because the fact that they have got these lawsuits filed, And their website isn't updated. It says 7 states. It's actually 9. I got a message from Marley. They're using civil rights, and all the election fraud data will be able to be submitted as evidence to support the civil rights violation of your vote getting canceled when an illegal voter from a dirty voter roll cancels your vote. It's about voter disenfranchisement. It's about civil rights. And at the end of the day, Supreme Court, if you have multiple states, which is a multi-jurisdiction lawsuit using the same lawsuit template in 9 states, and it gets expedited to the Supreme Court. So we should have this case in court before November 5th, God willing. And who knows, we might even get the 2022 and the 2020 elections set aside. Imagine everything that's going to get unraveled if that happens. Think about how massive what they are doing is. And again, these are good people that are just walking in faith and doing the right things for the right reasons when nobody's looking. But I'm asking you to look at unite4freedom.com, unite4freedom.com. Please take a look at them. Please give them $5 if you can, because it's for a worthy cause. These people have done an amazing amount of work on all of this, and I am just so grateful for their support in supporting our country. I hope you guys have a great day. Have a great evening. God bless you. Thank you for everything, as always. And we'll again see you again back here tomorrow on Steel News. Until then, enjoy the war zone. And remember, we've got people languishing in jail. We've got J6 prisoners that deserve to be, prayers said. Hold them all up high, folks, and hug your babies.